Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're on the day we have been waiting for. We may have to wait a little bit longer. Legislative leaders will be down here in just a few minutes. We'll meet again. They've been going around the clock, as you know, and our global agreement that we got on Thursday, I think, serves Minnesota well. It's fiscally responsible. It tackles both short and long-term structural deficiencies, but also continues to invest in the things that make Minnesota a great place to live, whether it's schools, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's improving quality of life. So we've got some bills to hammer out here in the last few hours. We've completed 6 of them already, important ones from vets to transportation, judiciary and public safety. Those are buttoned up and be on my desk here in a minute for signature. And for the rest of the day, just encouraging folks to work out their differences, hold to that universal agreement that we came to on the budget numbers, and get this thing wrapped up. So grateful to the House and Senate, both Democrats and Republicans, working in good faith. We're in a good spot. I do think they're probably going to run up against the clock. Looks very similar to 2019, at which case we'll continue to do the work, and when the work's done and they're ready, I'll bring them back for a one-day special session and we'll button things up. So that's where we stand as of now. We should learn a little more here in the next half hour or so when they come down.
Governor, all of the biggest bills are still outstanding.
Yeah.
The biggest budget bills. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of movement, at least not publicly. How concerned should we be about that?
No, we'll get it. And the big ones are always the last thing because of the leverage that goes into them. Look, the universal target numbers that we came to are held. There's some tough compromises in here. We know that not everybody's happy, but I say once again to Minnesotans, against the backdrop of the dysfunction in D.C., this is a pretty remarkable thing to see the most closely divided legislature in Minnesota history working together in a fiscally responsible way of dealing with it. So I'm very confident we'll get those things done. It's bringing those chairs in, and this is hard. This is hard with the caucuses. Once you get an agreement amongst leadership, they've got to go out and make the case to their members, and that's not always the easiest thing to do. Mary?
Will there be a special session this week?
When the work's done, whenever that is, whenever we're ready.
That was going to be my question, whether
Yep.
there was momentum.
When the work's done.
Right away, this week, next week, June 1st.
It's just the product matters more than anything. We'll have it worked out. We'll know we did it in 2019. It's going to be mostly perfunctory, making sure the revisers get the bills done, they're done right, bring them in for one day. I would caution again for the legislature, the first weeks of June, once we get past June 1st, we'll be obligated then to start looking at what does it look like if you shut down. That means we send out the layoff notices and things like that. That is not without a cost. And I would just argue with all the time we've had to do this, we've got plenty of time to finish this over the next few days. Just continue to work on this, button these things up. And again, you've got to have the hard deadline, or these deliberative and legislative bodies would go on forever, or we end up with a situation in D.C. where you just have continuing resolutions and you never fix the issue. That's not what we do here.
Are you going to insist on a single day? Because there are still 13 omnibus bills that are not.
Happened before, happened in 19. This is very typical. In fact, we were ahead of where we were in 2019. The last day or so slowed up. Look, these are hard compromises that had to be made. There's passion around these issues, but that's what legislating looks like, and that's what leadership looks like. Folks who come here, you've got to cast the hard votes. You're not going to get everything you want. Those things can button up very quickly. There's just some, it's around the big issues, so you keep the budget bills open so the big issues are still being discussed.
It sounds like you would want, though, before you call the one-day special session, all of the bills to be
Yes, it'll be done.
settled behind the scenes, and then you call them back when they're ready to be passed?
That's correct. That's correct. That's what
What about undocumented health care? Where does that stand?
it was the agreement that we made, that the Republicans have decided, and against strong opposition amongst Democrats and myself included, it will not save us money in the long run. I believe it's a cruel policy, but it's one that they felt very strongly about. It's one that they made clear that nothing else was going to happen until agreement was done about that. And I think...
And as a standalone, would you veto that? The parts that you can't veto?
Well, I'll cross that bridge when we get to it. It's a deal that I made with, and we just, that was the struggle we had for 7 days over this issue. We cut a deal. I would adhere to the words that I signed on the paper. Protecting children was the fallback red line position. It certainly makes sense to me that we were covering folks because, again, just so you know, these folks are going to show up in the emergency room. They're going to need the care. We are obligated by federal law to provide that care, and the hospital absorbs the cost, which they pass on to everyone else. It makes more sense, both humanely, fiscally, or responsibly, to get this care in the front end, but that's not the deal that was made, so we'll continue to honor what we made.
What
Governor, can you clarify just a few points? Speaker Damon was saying that she felt the deal left some room open to talk about things like paid family leave and
No.
school funding. Can you clarify that?
Well, we made our deals. Those were signed. I keep my word. The last time that someone broke a deal was in 2022 when Republicans in the Senate walked away from a deal that we agreed to. And in that year, we didn't get the things done we needed to. So I signed my name to a deal. We all signed them on there. Those issues were discussed ahead of time, knowing that they were going to be the sticking points for some of their members. That's what leadership does. So no, we're in a fine spot now. We should be wrapping these things up. They have to socialize it with their members, and that's always a bit of a challenge. That's what this place, that's what we're in right now, that space.
Given the extra time that a special session gives you is bonding on the table.
I sure hope they're working on it. We got an agreement around some of the numbers on bonding. We knew where we needed to get done. We're clearly still, as a AAA bond rated state, it matters that we continue to keep upkeep on our assets. And this is one, of course, where Senate Republicans are going to be helpful because we need the supermajority. And even last week, I was talking to Senator Johnson about this, the need to get this done, and I think it was very positive. So a bonding bill certainly should be a part of this final deal.
Governor, is there any conversation about keeping immigrant adults who have Minnesota Care on the program, or is that all buttoned up?
That they would phase off at the end of this calendar year was what it was, the deal was. And in the federally, the budget that President Trump put forward ended on September 1st, I believe, of 2027. But if I understand right, over the last day or two, that they are making that coverage will end for all undocumented folks on the day of enactment. So if they pass this budget bill this summer and it passes the Senate and the President signs it, that will go immediately into effect, and that will supersede what we did here, obviously, because it would mean the penalties would fall back on Minnesota, and they would be in the terms of around $600 million on that first day.
What do you plan to tell lawmakers when you go into this meeting right now? What do you plan to tell them?
Yeah, finish this thing up now. We got the deal. Bring it in. This is incredibly, and I would say this, I think every one of them should be very proud of what we did. This is very challenging against the federal backdrop we're against. We're in a solid fiscal place. We're going to leave a couple $2 billion on the bottom line in this next biennium. We're going to do what Minnesota does, look another biennium out, and we solved 90% of that budget shortfall. And then over the horizon into 28 and 29, we've already taken care of 45% of that structural imbalance, all at the same time continuing to invest in education, investing in infrastructure, investing in the things that improve Minnesotans. So I would tell them they've got something here they can be proud of. They didn't get everything. They're giving things on this. As I said, I strongly disagree on this position of throwing people off and putting people at risk on the healthcare piece, but I understand how strongly the Republicans felt about it. And look, part of this is I've been doing this now for about 20 years. You negotiate in good faith, you negotiate to where you can be. I don't believe the Republicans were bluffing when they were going to shut down government and nothing else would move, because it was that important to them to get some movement there. And so for me, it was to try and salvage the best we could, and I think that's a discussion that's still happening.
Have you spoken with former President Biden since his cancer diagnosis?
No, I have not. Thank you for asking. I think most of us are just getting that. We obviously, Gwen and I sent out our best wishes and a hope for a speedy recovery to President Biden, and I hope all is going well with that.
Okay, thanks,
All right, thanks everybody.
How was Gus's prom?
We'll talk soon. Pardon me?
How was Gus's prom?
It was great. Thank you for asking. And as a parent, they got home safely. That's the first bar you cross. So thank you.